So marriage, it's a wonderful thing. It's quite the institution. I suggest that it is not wise for the husband to charge his wife, to insist that she owes him any duties. It's healthy, in fact, in marriage to remember that to her own master she stands or falls. We should look to ourselves and how we should be serving her. That's what we should be worrying about. We should never be concerning ourselves with, is she serving me as she should? Is she serving me enough? How do we serve our wives? Well, we love our wives by command. Wives are not commanded to love us, which is very interesting. We are commanded to love our wives. We're commanded to study our wives. I just read a little blog post which I thought was a great little meditation on the command in the Old Testament for when a young man married, he had a year free of war and of any work that would take him away from his home. And why was this? It was in order to make his wife rejoice. Being at home and giving her babies and giving her company and giving it good, that's what would make his wife rejoice. So God knows that being there with your wife and dedicating yourself to her is what makes her glad. And he thinks it's important enough to issue a command to make sure that happens. Because we neglect our wives. You know, any human being could neglect any other. But it's not really a vice that women are given to, wives are given to. Wives are not given to ignoring their husbands. But we very often ignore our wives. But we should be instead studying them and making them to rejoice. You know, that covers all sorts of things, starting with physical affection, but then going on into time. You know, we like to reduce women very often to, well, women are interested in a man who can provide. And, you know, there's some truth to that, but women are interested in a man who can provide them a climate of happiness and joy. And this is why classically women enjoy men who make them laugh. It's not just about resource acquisition. Marriage is not a zero-sum survival game. Because Christian marriage is all about grace and joy. Grace and joy in the face of suffering, because you will surely see much. But grace and joy in times of feasting as well. And our work with our wives is to make them want to rejoice, is to cover them over with joy, cover them over with grace, to supply a party atmosphere. And I don't mean that's telling jokes or being goofy. It's not. It's providing, you yourself modeling and providing an atmosphere where there can be peace and joy. That means working and working hard, but also means balancing and juggling. You can't go out there and spend all your time providing a nice house and a good insurance policy and school tuition for the kids. That's not enough. In fact, you might have to decide that you can't afford tuition because you need to cover your wife with joy. You have to be home. One of the things I've really appreciated in my marriage is the fact that Kimberly has been willing to accept my gifts. We did a video together a couple of years ago about dating and about a wife's attitude towards going out on a date, and how so she was saying, from the wife's perspective, that it's very salutary for the woman to not think about what she would have ideally wanted, but to see that the husband is honestly trying to provide a happy joyful experience and that she should accept it on those terms and try to enjoy that. Of course, the flip side of that is that the husband should be studying the wife and giving her what she wants. But one of the cool things about that interaction is that the potential is the woman can imagine what she wants. The man tries to understand what she wants. And in the touching point between the two, and the conflict and the rub between the two, what actually ends up emerging is something that's greater than either could really conceive of. I mean, that's the beauty of the sexual relationship. So you can have an amazing date because the husband tried to please the wife as much as possible, and the wife tried to be easy to please, and then a new thing that neither one of them could have conceived of was what actually happened. So you can have so much more maturity of expression and experience, so much more complexity of expression and experience because of the interaction between the two. And just as with a date, so an entire marriage and an entire life. And I've always loved that, I'm kind of a crazy guy. I'm not totally hinged, or at least not in the same places that others are. I am given to insanities, to outrageous expression. But I also know that although that makes my wife nervous at times, I also know that that's something that attracted her to me in the first place and that she likes about me. But I've always appreciated that Kimberly has tried to accept me and the life I've given her and the experiences I've given her on those terms. Now that on their own terms. Now that doesn't mean that she has simply blindly accepted everything that I've said or proposed. She expresses her disagreements, her disappointments, so we have fought. But that's not her outlook. She's not trying to find fault with what I do or trying to get me to do what she wants. That is for both husband and wife, such an important thing to do. Don't try to get your spouse to do what you want. And Kimberly's a fantastic model of that. So I work very hard in many different ways to provide her with a life of joy. And she very wonderfully tries to digest it on its own terms. Like I am providing a meal for her that I have cooked. If she had cooked it, it wouldn't be as enjoyable. But I've cooked this thing. Now, because I've cooked it, there's the risk that some things won't be to her taste. And in fact, in real life, when I cook for her, that's a super real risk because we have very different tastes. But I mean, that makes it so much more fun and exciting, don't you think? So, I've been doing a few of these videos about my wife, and this is just the thing I absolutely love about her, that she accepts not only me, but my offerings to her on their own terms. And man, I think that's such a great recipe for joy and contentment. What a wonderful thing in marriage. All right, y'all. Man, I hope you've enjoyed this sweet background, this beautiful leaf, this purple wall. The peace of Christ be upon you. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, my videos, my blog, all the social media stuff, check out my Patreon page. If you become a supporter of any amount, you get access to secret content. Check it out.